Hypersonic. Ever since his debut in Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles, despite the small role he plays in the game, he has quickly spurred onto being one of the fanbase's favourite forms for Sonic. But I've always found that to be fairly strange, because unlike most forms for Sonic, like if we're talking about Supersonic, Darkspine, Excalibur, they all have thematic reasons for why they exist. Hypersonic, on the other hand, while it doesn't have a reason to even exist in the first place, it's also kind of lackluster in terms of we've only seen him once and everything he's done has been superseded by other Sonic forms ever since. But let's talk about why Hypersonic was even made, and for that we're gonna have to focus on the development cycle of Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Now, if you're actually watching this, I assume you do know about Sonic 3 and K by now, but just to quickly paraphrase, Sonic 3 was way too big of a game, and when a McDonald's deadline affected Sonic 3 really badly, Sonic 3 had to be split up into two parts. Sonic 3 Part 1 and Sonic 3 Part 2. Sonic 3 Part 2, later rebranded as Sonic & Knuckles, released a bit later that year, and that's how we have two sets of Chaos Emeralds for each game. Sonic & Knuckles featured lock-on technology, where you could connect both cartridges, getting Sonic 3 and Knuckles, which was the definitive experience. But since both have their own set of Chaos Emeralds, they decided to experiment. After you collect the 7 Chaos Emeralds in the Sonic 3 portion of the game, you get the opportunity to collect the 7 Super Emeralds, which are set to be Chaos Emeralds that are enhanced by the energy of the Master Emerald. Because you collect the Chaos Emeralds twice, you get something better than Supersonic. You get Hypersonic. So that's pretty much all Hypersonic is, a glorified Easter egg for those committed players. And yet, so many people still adore the guy. If I had to be honest, I assume it's mostly due to the fact that a lot of fan projects use Hypersonic really well. If we have to bring up a personal favourite of mine, Sonic Stop Motion Adventures really deserves its Hypersonic. Not only does it look really good in the show, but the thematic reason it has for existing is way better than Sonic 3 and K. I feel like there's a ton of other fan projects that handle it really well as well. Hypersonic is an interesting concept, but how he's handled in the games just isn't interesting to me at all. Now, if we want to talk about Sega officially acknowledging Hypersonic, then we actually have two instances. The first one was fairly boring. In an interview with an ex-Sonic employee, we were asked why Hypersonic makes no appearance later on. And while there's a big misconception that Hypersonic isn't canon, we were said that after the events of Sonic 3 and K, the Super Emeralds were banished to another dimension. And I have no idea how this works. I mean, the Super Emeralds are just the Chaos Emeralds enhanced, so surely if the Super Emeralds are gone, well, that just means the Chaos Emeralds are gone. Weird Sonic side tangent aside, this was a boring excuse to me. There's a lot of reasons you could actually go with. The first thing I would say is Hypersonic isn't even required for beating Doomsday. You can do Doomsday as Supersonic. Why not just retcon it that Hypersonic never even happened? Why give some weird excuse that doesn't make other things make sense? It's so boring to me, I don't understand why they did it. Now, if we want to talk about the second time Hypersonic was officially acknowledged, well, then we need to go to Ian Flynn, the writer of the IDW comics and Shadow Generations. But the thing we're going to focus on is Sonic Frontiers. Now, when Ian was writing the Final Horizon DLC of Sonic Frontiers, he said that originally he pitched the idea that Supersonic would go hyper, making his grandiose return to the franchise over what would have been nearly 28 years. Sega turned that down fairly instantly. Now, it's not known why Sega have a distaste for Hypersonic. Now, I don't know why Sega dislikes Sonic 3, maybe it's something to do with the more apprehensiveness they have around Sonic 3 in general. But what's strange to me is that in Sonic Frontiers, we see the debut of Supersonic 2. Now, Supersonic 2 is a form of Sonic where he uses the cybernetic energy that he's been affected with the entire game for power. Now, while I don't like the idea of,
oh, well, what if Sonic went even further beyond?
I also don't mind it when it makes thematic sense. You see, Sonic had evidently been struggling with this the entire game, and while it doesn't affect gameplay, it evidently affects his idle animations and cutscenes. So it was really cool to see something that was affecting the character the entire game be used for power, and the best thing is, since it was cyber energy enhancing the super form, we know we're never going to see this guy again. So if there's a big threat that Supersonic can't handle, well suddenly it's not a,
okay, well why doesn't he just go Supersonic 2?
He can't go Supersonic 2 anymore. Albeit, I really hope they don't make this a norm. In Sonic Frontiers, we get Supersonic 2, which he loses at the end of the game, and in Shadow Gens, we get his Doom abilities, which he loses at the end of the game. I would hate to see this becoming a norm for super forms. Like, they're cool, but making them one-and-done deals is fairly boring, especially when it doesn't make sense to be one-and-done, like Darkspine or Excalibur were. To me, it wouldn't have made sense if Hypersonic returned in Sonic Frontiers. I don't see why he's needed. I understand why we needed a new form for Sonic, especially considering since we've been using Supersonic the entire game, seeing him used at the climax isn't very climactic. It doesn't have the same exact level of stakes we have seeing Supersonic in other games, so it was obvious we needed something new. And for Sega, I guess they just didn't see Hypersonic to be that interesting. Now, if we're talking about how Hypersonic is handled throughout the entire series, I think it's fairly lackluster. Sure, fan projects have handled him really well, and to the most part, I'm a big fan of Hypersonic in fan content. But when it comes to how Sega has actually handled the form, he's a bit of a fraud, really. There are so many other Sonic forms that handle him really well. I mean, come to think of it, there's only one Sonic form that I really don't like that's way too overhyped by this fandom. I'm looking at you, Dark Sonic. Then again, if Hypersonic was to return to this series, and it was handled really well, I'd be all for it. But as he stands right now, Hypersonic fucking sucks!